TikTok's future is still not settled. The huge divide between AI experts and the general public. Is WordPress in real trouble? And were the latest rounds of tariffs calculated by ChatGPT? Welcome to Hashtag Trending. I'm your host, Jim Love. Let's get into it. As the April 5th deadline approaches for TikTok to be sold or face a U.S. ban, a wide and unusual range of potential buyers has emerged. But the app's Chinese owner, ByteDance, still hasn't confirmed whether it's willing to sell. The U.S. government has ordered ByteDance to divest TikTok's American operations, citing national security concerns over its Chinese ownership. But ByteDance continues to dispute those concerns and hasn't yet committed to selling. Despite the uncertainty, a growing list of interested buyers has come forward. Confirmed bidders include AI startup Perplexity, backed by Amazon founder Jeff Bezos, and Frank McCourt, founder of Project Liberty, who wants to replace TikTok's algorithm with a more open and user-controlled version. And McCourt's group includes Reddit co-founder Alex Ohanian and Canadian investor Kevin O'Leary. There are also reports of last-minute bids from AppLovin, an app marketing company, and OnlyFans founder Tim Stokely, whose interest coincides with a relaunch of a separate company. Amazon reportedly expressed interest in a letter to U.S. officials, although it has declined public comment. And a high-end consortium, including Oracle co-founder Larry Ellison and investor Mark Andreessen, is said to be close to gaining government backing. Oracle already manages TikTok's user data in the U.S. Meanwhile, YouTuber Mr. Beast, Jimmy Donaldson, has said he's been approached by groups asking him to support or front a bid. Still, any buyer will face one major obstacle. ByteDance has not agreed to sell. TikTok without its algorithm is like Harry Potter without his wand. It's simply not as powerful. That was from Kelsey Chickering, an analyst at Forrester Research. It remains unclear whether the algorithm would be part of any deal. Despite the looming deadline, Vice President J.D. Vance expressed confidence in a resolution being near. "I think that we're in a good place," he told Fox News. Experts suggest that TikTok is unlikely to go dark in the U.S. even if the deal is delayed, and that an extension or compromise is more likely than a shutdown. A new study shows a growing divide between the people building AI and the public who will live with it. While most AI experts believe the technology will benefit them personally, only a small portion of the public shares that optimism, and many expect to be harmed by it. Stanford's 2024 AI Index report reveals that 76% of AI experts expect AI to benefit them personally, while only 15% worry it will harm them. The public sees things differently. Just 24% of Americans believe AI will be good for them, and nearly half think it will personally harm them. Only 11% say they're more excited than concerned about AI's growing role in everyday life, and 51% say they're more concerned than they are excited. The report highlights a fundamental disconnect. AI developers are confident, while the broader public is increasingly wary. This tension could have long-term implications for how society accepts or pushes back against AI adoption. And gender divide adds another layer. The percentage of men that believe that AI will benefit them is twice what it is with women, 22% to 11%. And not surprisingly, according to the report, men's views are better represented in AI design than the views of women. Now, part of this is that women are underrepresented in the expert category. Only 18% of AI PhDs in the U.S. are women, and many experts worry that this imbalance influences how AI systems are designed and who they serve. University of Washington linguistics professor Emily Bender says this reflects a deeper failure to include diverse voices in AI development. To break that pattern, the U.S. needs to be more genuine about including more perspectives, she said, noting that many tech companies are now scaling back diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI, initiatives on the instruction of the Trump government. The report calls for wider representation, stronger public engagement, and more transparency as AI systems are rolled out. Without these changes, the gap between those building AI and those living with its consequences may only widen. And while there's a gap between the general public and the experts, they did have one point of common agreement. According to the report, More than half of U.S. adults, 55%, and a similar share of AI experts, 57%, say they want more control over how it's used in their lives. There's a link to the study in the show notes. Automattic, the parent company of WordPress.com, has announced a significant restructuring, resulting in the layoff of approximately 16% of its global workforce. The decision impacts around 280 employees across 90 countries. In a memo to employees, CEO Matt Mullenweg cited the need to enhance productivity, profitability, and investment capacity as key drivers for the restructuring. He emphasized that despite revenue growth, the rapidly evolving and highly competitive technology landscape necessitates these changes. In other words, the usual corporate blah, blah, blah. The layoffs come in the wake of a legal dispute that we've covered before with WP Engine. It's a third-party hosting company. And this conflict has previously led to some internal challenges, including an earlier reduction of 8.4% of the workforce of Automattic, following a buyout where Mullenweg offered to buy out employees who disagreed with his approach to the dispute. And almost 1 in 10 took him up on his offer. Now it turns out that gracious offer might have been a way to reduce staff, as well as a way to get rid of people who thought Mullenweg's tactics were wrong. But it appears that that wasn't enough, and the company feels it needs to shrink even further. Automattic has assured the affected employees that they'll receive comprehensive severance packages, job placement assistance, and the option to retain their company laptops. Mullenweg expressed gratitude for the contributions of the departing employees and reiterated the company's commitment to supporting them during the transition. So, Automattic made the usual corporate noises about sustained success, fostering agility, breaking down internal efficiencies, focusing on product quality, yeah. But the real question is, does the company have a viable economic model? Is WordPress in trouble? Given that WordPress powers almost half the world's websites, if it were to be in trouble, or even to pull back on development of new innovations, this could be a real problem. When Donald Trump made his tariff announcement yesterday, he held up a chart that purported to show the tariffs charged by other countries and the U.S. reciprocal tariff, which was calculated as half the tariff amount. Now, this led to some extreme numbers. One of them was Vietnam. We reported this yesterday. They were charging apparently over 90% tariffs on U.S. goods, and as the result, the U.S. kindly only imposed a 46% tariff. And Trump claimed he could have matched the tariffs, but that would have been too extreme. So to be generous, he only charged 50% of the tariffs that he claimed the U.S. had been charged. Except it wasn't true. These were not the tariff amounts charged by these countries. And it left experts around the world perplexed with how the U.S. got these numbers. Until you look at it and you can think what Trump's staff had done was to take the trade deficit that the U.S. had and use that to create a fictitious or an assumed tariff percentage. Follow me on this one. So if Vietnam exported $126 billion worth of goods to the U.S., but the U.S. only sold them $13 billion, and this was pretty close to the numbers that are out there. Not exact, but pretty close. If you divide 13 by 126, you could take that and maybe translate that to a tariff, 90%, and then you cut the number in half and you come up with 40-something as being half. But who would come up with a formula like this? I looked at it and went, this can't be. But I ran the scenario through ChatGPT, and it did a calculation just the way I described it and reported what it said was an implied barrier ratio. But for this implied trade barrier ratio, which is almost exactly what the White House reported, if you read on, ChatGPT warns, this is not a real tariff rate. It's a rough way to describe how imbalanced the trade is. The actual average tariff rate Vietnam applies to U.S. goods is governed by the World Trade Organization and bilateral agreements. And ChatGPT reported that according to the World Trade Organization, Vietnam's average applied tariff rate is about 6.3% across all imports. 90% versus 6.3%. The fate of a nation's economy hangs in the balance. And would somebody really pull a number out of ChatGPT and not even really check it or read all the text? I'd love to be proven wrong on this. Really, I would. You know how to reach me. editorial@technewsday.ca. Find me on LinkedIn, or if you're watching on YouTube, just drop a note in the comments. And that's our show. Join us this weekend with Project Synapse, our AI panel, people who know how to calculate, and I'll be back with the tech news on Monday. I'm your host, Jim Love. Have a fabulous Friday.